everybody, welcome to Empowered Spirit Healing. Today I have two very special people with me. I have Jennifer, who I've had on my channel before, and I also have Cindy Olah, which I'm very, very excited. Well, Jennifer and I are both very, very excited to have Cindy on with us today. We are wanting to talk to her about mystery schools and all how Cindy got into that and all that kind of thing. So we're very, very excited. I also just want to share, just before we get started, that Jennifer and I are working on doing a special series all about Edgar Cayce, Helena Blavatsky, and Rudolf Steiner, and what what they discovered with their work all about Atlantis and how that's affecting us today. We also want to kind of deep dive into the occult and into mystery schools and learn all about how that can help us in today's time, because it seems that we are traveling on a very similar path to Atlantis. And so we're really excited. We're going to be starting that series very, very soon. But just kind of as like a prologue to that, we wanted to have a chat to Cindy and learn a bit more about mystery schools, because Cindy has so much knowledge in this area. And so how are you going today, Cindy?
I'm doing well, and thank you so much for inviting me here today. Because I know that we're in separate parts of the world, and
Yes,
you just had your summer solstice, yes,
that's right.
and we
Yes.
just had our winter solstice, and so that's fascinating to me too, to speak to someone who's on the opposite side and experiencing the solstices in reverse.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like hot and sweaty over here. I've got my fan going, and then you two are like freezing over in America. So yeah, but no, we're so happy to talk to you. And how are you going, Jennifer? You good?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me. And I'm so excited and intrigued to have this conversation. It's just because why are the mystery schools so mysterious and what did they teach and all of that? And I'm so eager to learn more. I'm
Mm,
always eager to learn more. So
yeah,
thank you.
same. Yeah, no, I'm glad that you're joining me, because like I was saying to you before, Jennifer, I wanted you to come on as well to the conversation, because different minds have different questions. Jennifer's got a lot more research into the occult and mystery schools than I've had. I'm still quite kind of new onto my journey. I've always been intrigued by it, but I've kind of always gone down more the I guess personal development and kind of spiritual healing work kind of path. And I've always been intrigued by this, but I've just never quite done a deep dive into it. So I'm like, yep, it's time. I really want to learn as much as I can, because I feel like it's really important and I feel like we need to share this information. Also, because I think also what's really spurred it on is I've been reading this book called Anna, the Grandmother of Jesus, which is a channeled book all about Jesus's grandmother, or Yeshua's grandmother, because that's his real name. And man, have you read it, Cindy?
I have actually.
Oh, okay.
I
What
think
did
I've
you
read the
think about
second
it?
one.
Yep, yep.
Um, I think that's the one that I've read one of them, but yes, I have
Okay.
one of them here nearby actually, yes.
Yes. So
And
I'm
they talk
reading
about
yes,
The Magdalene lineages
yes,
as priestesses of priestess.
yes. And oh my God, I'm just blown away by this book. I read it a few years ago. And then I was like, oh, yes, I would love to read that on my channel, because I feel like this information needs to come out to people. We need to be learning more about the divine feminine energy and kind of getting it more into balance with the masculine energy, and learning about, I'm just fascinated by these initiations and becoming a high priestess. And it's just been incredible learning about the process that Anna went through and all of the work involved, because in the Bible we just hear about Jesus's story, and we hear that Mother Mary, and she magically became pregnant without being with her husband and all of this kind of stuff, but there's no kind of depth or background information into it, whereas with this book you don't even really hear about the grandmother. So learning about how she went to Egypt, and she went to to England as well, and she became a part of the Celtic tribe, and she's been through so many different initiations and really had to advance herself before she could have, well, light conceive Mother Mary. And Mother Mary also had to go through so many initiations and reach a certain level of frequency before she could light conceive Yeshua. So it's just so fascinating. And I was just like, how complimentary to reading the book to have Cindy on to talk more about this. So I'm just so excited. But obviously you haven't been on my channel before. I know that I'm sure we've been on together on Bryce's channel. But just for my audience who may not be familiar with you and your, I'd love to just kind of start how you got into all of this, into this work, because you grew up in, did you grow up in Peru? Is that right?
I didn't grow up in Peru. I was
No,
born
but
in
you're born there.
Peru.
Sorry, born. Yes, yes.
And then I came to the United States when I was about 4 years
Okay, so
old or
you're born.
so.
Mm-hmm.
And I still go visit Peru pretty frequently. I still have lots of family in Peru. Lots of my aunts and my uncles and grandparents who, well, they've passed away now, but I still have a lot of family in Peru. And I've led several retreats to Peru as well, up in the Andean region, to Machu Picchu and to
Wow.
Boca Canyon and to Lake Titicaca and all these places. Have done a few. It's been a while. It's probably the last retreat I did to Peru is probably 8 or 9 years now.
Okay.
So yeah, and in the Peruvian lineage, I would say, I think I first started to get introduced to some of the things probably when I was in college. And it's probably similar to many of you, where you start to get those pieces of, I don't know, it's like these little bites of remembrance. So
Mhm.
even though I wasn't necessarily thinking about, you know, teaching yoga or anything like that, some of the things that always interested me in college, because I feel that that's where it started to begin. You started to get those moments of wisdom of hits, like those hits of information that's coming through. And then you realize in hindsight, when I look back, I'm like, oh, this stuff has been coming through for a long time. I just didn't recognize it as so.
Yeah.
And I think that's that's how it happens. But in college, I looked at some of the papers that I used to write in college, and papers on ecofeminism, and like this, and I had totally forgotten that I had written a paper like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God. And then yeah, I studied psychology and very interested in Jungian psychology, which, if
Yeah.
you know, Carl Jung is very
Yeah.
much tied into. Um, I don't know if he was necessarily involved in mystery schools, but there is a strong
A lot of,
correlation between
yes,
the
similarities.
his teachings and the psyche and the alchemy of the psyche
Mhm.
and the teachings of Carl Jung, the psychology of it, and it fits hand in hand with a lot of the occult teachings. So like an early introduction to like Jungian psychology, again, didn't really know where it was going, but all these little things that start to prepare the path, even though you don't know that that's what's happening at the time. And
Mhm.
and I'm sure, several people have probably had that experience too in hindsight when you look back and you're like, oh, so this is, I've actually been studying this stuff longer than
Yes.
like the official study time
Mhm.
started. It actually started way before then. So yeah, so I think in college is probably when things started to begin to wake up and then delving into um I don't know, just these different things that you would watch. And back in that time, it was like in the 1990s, and the internet wasn't quite a thing yet, or at
Mhm.
least I'm trying to think. In the 1990s, there might have been like dial-up.
Yeah,
It was not
there
one of
was
those
definitely
things where it
dial
was
up, big box
so
computers.
it
Yeah.
information definitely wasn't as accessible as it
Yeah.
is now. And one of the things that I was talking to, I even talked to Bryce about this, is, back during that time when you were interested in information like, yeah, that had to do with spirituality or yoga or the occult, you almost had to go on a pilgrimage to
Yes.
figure it out. You actually had to, the desire had to be strong enough for you to take that extra effort. You couldn't just Google it.
Hmm.
You had to look in the phone books and find people, or look in magazines, and read uh interesting little magazines, and that's how you begin to find the people and the connections that you would make that way. In other words, you would start asking the questions, and then suddenly you'd find a little article in the newspaper, an article in the magazine, or you would find something in the phone book. That's the way it was done in the 90s, and I'm sure even before that you had to. It was like there, and I think that that's what kind of makes a mystery school what it is that there's more of a and why it is so much of it. You're asking why is it a mystery? It's because I feel anyways is that there should be like a pilgrimage almost for you to seek out the information. It shouldn't be that easily available, because you were talking about Anna and everything that she had to go through. I mean,
Yes.
imagine back then the pilgrimages that you take. You'd have
Oh,
to
the
travel across
traveling.
the seas
Yeah.
and everything to take the pilgrimages, and the pilgrimages themselves act as initiations. And that's part of kind of what's missing now, is that everything is just, if everything is so available, your mind isn't really available to receive all of the information, versus when back in the day when the mystery schools were developed, and even in the 1900s, 1950s, 1960s, 1970s, you had to seek, and then that itself
Well,
was
it's like a
part of
commitment,
the
isn't it?
initiation.
Yeah, it's a bit of a
Mhm.
commitment to do that. You can't, yeah, 100%. And only, very few people are willing to do that because you have to make sacrifices to do that. Even like Bryce and Todd had to make sacrifices to go over to India and study, Ashtanga yoga and things like that. So, yeah, I 100% agree. Yeah. You look like you were bursting, Jennifer. Did you want to add something?
There's a quote that Edgar Casey says something to the effect of the information is there for those who seek. And he created the ARE because that's like our mystery school here. And there was a big time in the mid 1800s where they were like Blavinsky and Steiner wanted to release this information because humanity was beginning to lose itself. And
Yeah.
there was a big disagreement between basically the two secret societies, and of course the one secret society didn't want to release anything, but the other side did it anyways. So yeah, I think there really is something for those that you, if you seek it, you will find it. So I love that you said that because it's so true. So that's what I wanted to share. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I feel like that's an important piece of it. And yes, and that what you said, Jennifer, I think that's so much with a lot of the, even back when Reiki was first introduced back, it was one of those things that was quite a mystery, and it was not available to just anyone. And if you wanted to receive it, it cost tens of thousands of dollars.
Wow.
But there's a potency to that as well. And yes, and I guess that is something that what's right, which one's wrong. Should we make it available just to everyone at any time, or should it be something that if you really seek it? Because like I said, I think there's a power in the seeking. Um, and at the same time, it should be available to those who want to receive it. So I think there's a fine line with that, because I think what's happening now, though, is if it's just so available to everyone all the time, it gets watered down. So in other words, like the information that you receive through, mystery schools, online or wherever it is, like it did the person, the teachings of those like where, what did they have to go through to receive the teachings themselves? And is the information you're receiving, is it potent or has it been watered down because it is so easily accessible to everyone all the time? So, I mean, that's a conversation, I guess, that will always be had. Should
Hmm.
it be just available all the time to everybody? Or, I believe that there's also a certain potency to not making everything just available all the time to everybody, and for you to go and, and go through that pilgrimage,
Yeah.
even if it's a pilgrimage that has to go through online. But a pilgrimage, excuse me. Yes, because it is about making that sacrifice, as you were talking about, Jennifer, to be open to this information and to be ready to receive the information that, like I said, the pilgrimage itself is part of the initiation. And
Yes.
then we lose that piece of it.
Hmm. Hmm. Because it also helps to filter people out as well, doesn't it? Because I think, it's very rewarding when you have to work really hard for something. And, obviously the harder you work and the greater the reward. And sometimes, obviously with mystery schools, a lot of the information I'm assuming, is very quite dangerous in the wrong hands. So it's another way of filtering out the people that are really willing to do the work to learn about it, but also kind of
Mm-hmm.
filtering out people that are just doing it for ego reasons, or people that genuinely want to do it to help and have want to serve others, basically. Yeah, that's a big
Mm-hmm.
part of it too.
One of my favorite mystery schools is the Eleusinian mysteries, which is the mysteries of Demeter and Persephone. And, those were the Hellenistic mystery schools, and, Plato and all of them were said to be a part of that particular mystery school.
Hmm.
And, they had to, and, it was open to people. So people who wanted to be a part of the mysteries and take the pilgrimage to, whenever that time of the year came, that it was available to them. But however, they were sworn to secrecy. Whatever happened within that pilgrimage and within the cave, within the time they gathered, they were absolutely sworn to secrecy, and it was like sworn to secrecy to the point of death. If you spoke about it, then it was a death sentence. But it was also important, though, the people who participated in the mystery school, it was important for the whole, it wasn't just important for them, but it was important for the whole entire community. It was for the whole entire Greek community, because it was like holding space and doing the certain rites and everything for because their beliefs back then were very much, about Demeter and Persephone, and the death and rebirth cycle, and fertility and crops growing, and so the people who participated in the mystery schools, it was important for everybody, because it was like it was that holding of the space for that, for good crops to come, and for fertility to come, and for that the cycle, the cycles of the seasons were kind to them. So the mystery schools, even though they were mystery schools, it was also still important for everybody,
The whole
like for the
community.
whole community, not just the people participating in the mystery school too, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think that is important too, to recognize that the mystery schools, I think even of this day, that it doesn't just serve the people who are in the mystery schools, but it helps to serve the whole collective in a sense, because they're doing a certain kind of work that hopefully is extending out to the collective and extending out to everyone, because there's a certain, these energies that you're working with to help uplift humanity and uplift the world.
Hmm.
It sounds a very service to others, working with nature's laws opposed to working against nature's law,
Yeah.
is kind of
Mm-hmm.
how I'm interpreting all of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
And there's always a piece of that, you know, in some of the teachings and the trainings that I received, there's always that piece of this is not just for you.
Yeah.
You know, you're doing, you know, some of the work and you're learning, but you're also doing it to better all of humanity and all of mankind in your own way with, you know, through the people that you touch or, you know, just elevating the overall frequency
Mhm.
around you by doing the work that you're doing, you know, and you know, maybe folks don't realize the impact that that might have on the whole, I said that to everybody, the community. And
Yeah.
so I think that's an important aspect of mystery schools is understanding that it's not just about the, you know, the people participating in it. It's much bigger than that too.
Yeah, well, I don't think even I didn't really realize that, but of course that makes sense.
Mhm.
And do you feel like the mystery schools, do you feel like that the going through the initiations and learning everything that you're learning, do you feel like it does humble you quite a lot? And do you think it helps you to have more compassion for others because of the kind of training and spirituality that you go through?
100%, or it should anyways.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, there's always you know, you'll encounter spiritual egotism, guess wherever you go. And I think
Yes.
that's important. Like it's really, really important to watch yourself that you don't get caught up in that. Because
Mm,
it's easy to. I mean, your ego, it will wrap itself around anything,
mhm.
anything. And just because you're studying spirituality doesn't necessarily mean that you know, that you know, you're actually doing the work of clearing the path and, you know, becoming more rounded and embodied and helpful and all these things. Because there's a lot of narcissists and so on that are also attracted to this kind of work and we see it. I mean, you see it with all the Netflix specials about all the
Oh,
gurus that go in and they're taking advantage of all the people. I mean, I know you and Bryce have talked about all the different cults and stuff
mhm.
that have come about because of that, you know, people using the wisdom and spirituality just to
Serve themselves.
serve the ego and that is so there is definitely that potential to happen, so it can go either way, but hopefully, you know, if you do the work it will have the opposite effect and it will help to humble you and and I think when you are that's what you're doing and that's the work that you're claiming to do. In other words, you know, excuse me, I own a yoga studio.
Yes.
And through that, though, it will take you through the process. If you're, you know, if you are doing that work for yourself, it will take you through the process of making you do your own work, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
So, you know, the humbling and all the things and the meeting of yourself, it can actually be quite, it's not easy. Let's put
No.
it that way, to meet yourself that honestly and to look at all the different projections and you know, you're working in that subconscious realm and you're being face to face, meeting face to face all your insecurities and
Yeah.
all the, you know, lack of self-worth or, you know, everything will just it's like the running of the studio is just a big mirror basically for
Yes.
me too to look at everything, all the hidden yuck that's in there. And that process itself, yes, it is very humbling. And I think that that's, you know, perhaps is what makes the difference between the narcissist or, you know, getting the ego wrapped around it is the willingness to actually go there
Mhm.
because you know then you can get caught up in the spiritual bypassing and this and it'll sneak up on you too, you know, because it's really so much easier to blame others and to and
Yeah.
to not look at yourself and how easy it is to do that
Mhm.
and how difficult and challenging it can be to like sit with yourself, you know, through those icky kind of dark night moments, but it'll make you like if you go through the work honestly it will make you go through all that. And yes, it is very humbling when you have to meet yourself in such a honest way. Like all your yuck is like right there projected in front of you all the time. So the
Mhm.
work never ends. It's like
Yes.
it's continuous time, all the time. It doesn't stop.
No, not
But
until we die, I
that's the
think.
humbling. That's the humbling piece, though, I think.
Yeah,
And I think it's necessary, though. It helps to keep us grounded, and to
100%.
keep us to keep asking the questions to make sure that you are being in service to others and not just service to the self and service to the ego. And yeah.
Mhm. And I feel like as well, because I've gone through quite a lot in my spiritual journey, and I've definitely been humbled. And I feel like if I ever do get a little bit carried away or with my thoughts and things, I feel like the universe certainly makes something happen to bring me back down to earth pretty
Doesn't it?
quickly.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
But it's good because like even just a few months ago, I had a little bit of a mental breakdown and I was just like, I've been working so hard for things and things are just not going the way that I expected them to. And I was talking to my kinesiologist about this because I usually see her every month. And she was like, but Paula, you asked for this. She's like, you asked to heal this. And this is what happens when you ask for healing. It brings it up right into your face and you've got to face it and deal with it. And it's been interesting, it's been humbling, and it's also kind of made me realize, yeah, like I do have a lot of insecurities that I need to work on, especially around self-worth and self-confidence. And people pleasing is a huge thing for me, as well. And I'm just kind of getting to the point where I'm so sick of being like this. Like I know as a child, I adopted people pleasing behavior to survive, but yeah. Also, you want to say something, Jennifer? Oh, okay. But
Just
yeah,
to say, I think we're socially engineered for a lot of this too. That
yes,
it's kind of a
yeah,
social construct of mind programming a little bit in some cases,
yeah.
um,
You're
of us
told to
to
be
not.
a good little girl or a good little boy and do as you're told and follow the rules and yeah, yeah,
And even
100%.
be even kind of engineered to blame everyone else for your
Yes.
problems.
hmm Yeah,
So, yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
But I would love, Cindy, to get more into so where you went along your journey. So you were in college and you were kind of realizing that you were interested in these different things, and where did you go from there?
Okay, so I went to college and then I worked in the corporate world for
Yeah.
a while too.
hmm
Of course, I was like in the credit business and in the mortgage business and all this stuff. And it was good though. It was necessary. It's like I think it's always a necessary part of growing up
hmm
is having to go through that at some point or another. Um, and while I was working like all those different jobs, I was also still like interested in everything else. And I think probably the first training I ever received, and this was in my 20s, was in hypnotherapy.
Uh-huh.
So I got, which is kind of weird because the one of the first things that I ever learned how to do was through the hypnotherapist that I received my training with. He's no longer with us anymore, but he taught us how to do spirit release. So in other words, like when
Oh,
people have entities on them.
yes.
And that was one of the first things that I learned how to do, which is kind of crazy when you think about it,
Wow,
because that's
yeah.
a bit of an advanced practice
Yes.
looking back. But it
Went
was
straight in
one of
there.
my first introductions to all the things was through that particular training. And just in the introduction to the other realms and, the fact that these other entities exist, and then,
Mhm.
learning about the mind and all this stuff. It was really fascinating. That was the first training that I received in my 20s, and I was still working through this time too. So I was working in corporate while also receiving, all the different kind of trainings. And then soon after that, probably came the yoga teacher training,
Uh-huh.
and I got that probably my early 30s. It was in no, when was it? It was 2001, 2002, because it was during 9/11. Well, I remember we were in the middle of our teacher training process when 9/11 happened. That's why I always
Um,
remember it.
mhm.
So anyways, I went through a lot of yoga training
And
too, which
because
is, I
you
think, is
do
very,
you do different
Hmm.
yoga to Bryce. So you do, is it Iyengar? Is that correct?
I was trained in Anusara, which that is a whole, it really doesn't mm, exist the way, because, talk about different scandals and stuff. Anusara itself and the founder of Anusara went through its scandal and
Oh,
everything. But
okay. Yeah.
anyways, it follows the Iyengar lineage.
Uh-huh.
But I learned a lot about the body,
Uh-huh.
which I think is so key and so important about the alignment of the body and the energy of the body. And at the same time, learning more about the philosophy of yoga and especially the tantric philosophy, which is always closest to my heart,
Mhm.
which pretty much fuels, if you're interested in things like the
Yeah.
occult and tantric philosophy go hand in hand.
Yeah.
And so that was then my introduction to that kind of a philosophy, like the Shakti philosophy, where a lot of the feminine principles are introduced into it, while also learning a lot about the body. I went through a couple of teacher trainings through the years,
Hmm.
and then at some point, and then I received my yeah, okay. And around that time, that time was a time of a lot of learning. I also did the up here in Atlanta, up in the Blue Ridge Mountains, talk about skimming through little newspapers and magazines. Before the internet time, I saw an article about a Peruvian shaman that was coming and doing a workshop in the Blue Ridge Mountains. And I'm like, oh, well, I got to sign up for this.
Yeah.
And so I did that, and that's when I started to get more of my official training in the Peruvian and the Andean shaman tradition. So I worked with a shaman, an actual Peruvian higher level shaman. Then I also met another friend who her name is Diane, and she runs the Pasilu Center in Pisac, Pisac, Peru, up in the Sacred Valley. It's where I met her as well. And I still have communication. Like whenever I do the retreats in Peru, I usually go through her. So,
Okay.
anyways, through both of them, I learned a lot about, the different initiations and things that we actually do in the courses, the mystery school, the shaman was from these trainings from the Andean tradition.
Uh-huh.
And through some of the retreats that I've led, I've also worked with some other people there as well, in Peru, and I've got to meet all sorts. And then some people, it was maybe just yeah, just a one-time meeting kind of a thing, but some of those are just as potent as anything else, going to Peru. And then, later on came ayahuasca. I only did that one time, but that was, working with that particular shaman because it was just me and her. It wasn't like a big group. It was just me and her working together. And um, so anyways, and then yes, then eventually at some point going through all the Reiki trainings, like Reiki
Yeah.
1, Reiki 2, becoming a Reiki master. Um, and at some point I opened up the yoga studio. And then the trainings just continued for them, then taking all sorts of different classes and courses in astrology as
Mhm.
well,
Yeah.
and then more later on. So that was like the beginnings, and then more recently, probably I would say within the past 10 years or so, um, getting more into the realm of the occult and astrology, and delving deeper into that realm, and then working with like the different deities and the goddesses and
Yeah.
all that.
Yeah.
So it's been like a lifelong, well, since my mid 20s, I would say, since my mid 20s, and I'm 52 now. It
Hmm.
has just been a process of continuous learning and growing. And as I said, just running a yoga studio in itself teaches you a whole lot about everything,
Yeah.
because that's where life is the teacher.
Yeah. Absolutely. And so you would gain a lot of tools, I guess, like learning all of that to help you deal with all these challenges that arise. Yeah, I forgot to mention at the beginning that you've got beautiful sacred garden yoga. I mean, obviously I haven't been to visit because I'm too far away, but I've seen pictures and it looks absolutely gorgeous. And so you run some mystery school trainings there as well. So we can leave information in the description box below for anybody that wants to learn more about what Cindy offers. But yeah, it's so fascinating. And so what was I going to say? I had quite a few questions written down. But yeah, so I guess what I'd like to know is how people can kind of get into these teachings and use them in their everyday life to kind of help better themselves and help better, like increase their vibration and kind of help make the world a better place, really, because it's just been a very challenging time for everyone. And I feel like we've been very out of balance. It's been very patriarchal. I can't pronounce that very well. It's been very out of balance with that. And I also do personally believe that we are in a spiritual war at the moment. And I would love to kind of know how mystery schools can kind of help us, because I understand that there are good mystery schools and then there are also more darker mystery schools. And I feel like the two are probably kind of competing together competing with each other to kind of see who can come on top. And I like to believe the light always wins in the end, but we've got to go through that journey to get there. And yeah, I'd just love to kind of share like how this can help people in their everyday life.
Well, yeah, well, that's the point, actually, really.
Uh-huh.
If what you're learning isn't helping you in your everyday life, then there's no point to
Hmm.
even do it. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So the teaching should actually be incorporated into your everyday living. In
Hmm.
the end, the mystery school should just bring you back around to yourself and into your everyday living and the
Uh-huh.
way you do things every day. And that everyday life is actually your mystery school. So maybe you will do these teachings that take you into these, other type realms and all that, but that's not really, if you stay in those realms, it's really not helpful for you every day. As a matter of fact, it could do you more of a disservice
Yeah.
of disconnecting you from yourself and from your body and from your family and from your relationships and from your everyday responsibilities. So the
Hmm.
mystery schools, any kind of spiritual training that you receive, at least I feel it shouldn't be taking you away from your everyday responsibilities,
Uh-huh.
but that it should be helping you move through your everyday responsibilities with more peace, and for you to be able to show up in your relationships with your children or with your significant other or with your parents or whoever that you're in relationship with, because they're always going to be mirrors for you anyways,
Yes.
that that you're
So much.
that you're showing up in your best way, right, in your highest way. Because yeah, especially if you are raising children, I mean, that's huge and it's important, and the way that you show up as a parent is going to very much influence these younger people. So yeah, I mean, it will affect it should affect everything. It shouldn't pull you out of your everyday living.
Hmm.
It should bring you right into your everyday living with more purpose. And so, connecting with the nature spirits and all that, but then incorporating that into your everyday life so that you feel like you are supported and that you're not just going through life on your own, and that you can always call upon your spiritual allies to serve you and to help you,
Yes.
and to also help you get in tune with the different the rhythms that go on, like the rhythms of the season, the rhythms of the planets, what they're doing and how they're affecting you. So it just makes you more present to the different cycles and the rhythms that's going on around you, because it affects you whether you believe it or not.
Yeah.
Like
100%.
what your environment is definitely pulling on you all the time, and when you are in touch with understanding, what's going on through the seasons, you're better able to navigate through all the seasons and the seasons in your life as
Hmm.
well. And the intuitive development part and
Yeah.
learning to trust your intuition, which I think is extremely important. So trusting your intuition, but then also learning discernment
Yeah.
when, knowing when to trust, who to trust, so that you can make these better decisions for yourself and learning how to trust that intuitive part of you, and not second guessing it all the time, because again, you're always being guided. And so
Hmm.
that part of that intuitive development and connecting with yourself. And if, most people have, especially if they're interested in this, they have some kind of sensitivity, probably like
Yeah.
empathic ways where they can feel other people, and learning how to use that well
Hmm.
too, so that, you understand what's not yours and you understand what does belong to you. And, doing things to help, you know, create boundaries for yourself so that you don't get caught up in other people's energies.
Hmm.
And it's all psychological work. I mean, all of it is to reconnect you with your psyche too, so that it's like a defense against your own psychology.
Hmm.
So uh, you don't spiral into these places and stay there for long periods of times. You know how to pull yourself back up. And so those are like just the everyday stuff. And plus, we learn things with, like if you do cards or tarot, there's all these other ways too that help to just, again, connecting you with your allies in
Hmm.
different kinds of ways too, and that you have that connection, which in the end should be empowering for you, not disempowering.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, I love that it's very much about connecting you back with nature and understanding that there are rhythms and seasons that we have in our own life, like you said, because when I was younger and I struggled really badly with depression, I would get so deep into it and I was scared that I would never come out of it. Whereas now, if I have a challenging time or a bit of a dark night of the soul moment, I know that it's only temporary. I don't know how long it's going to last, but I know that it is going to end at some point because I'm understanding more about the seasons and how and the rhythms of life and how we go up and down. We're not going to just be happy all the time and positive all the time. That's not possible. And also, I don't feel like it's helpful to be happy all the time because it's in the challenge and in the pain and seeing the dark side of ourselves, learning to shine light on the parts of ourselves that we hate, or dislike or disown. And when we start to accept that and not see it as such a negative thing and bring that back in, we become more whole and complete. And yeah, it's just so very powerful when you do that and you start to learn to love yourself completely instead of having all these parts of you that are just kind of over there because you don't want to look at them. And it's uncomfortable and it's scary, but it's very, very powerful as well. And I love I've started working with the goddesses a bit more recently. And man, it's very, very empowering. Like when I'm feeling not very confident or just not feeling very strong within myself, I'll call on one of the goddesses. Mainly, I feel like in my astrological chart, I have quite a big connection to Persephone, so I'll often call her in to help me and just help. And I really feel it. Like I feel so much more empowered and strong, and I feel like when you learn about that you've got these people on these beings, sorry, on the other side that are your team, your guides, your angels, goddesses, gods, ascended masters, whoever you feel connected to, it's so empowering because you just don't feel like you're on your own anymore. And it doesn't feel like life is so hard and such a struggle when you've got a team of beings that can help you and assist you when you call on them. But of course, we have to ask because it's part of free will. But so I've got three daughters, and they actually attend a Rudolph, oh my God, I can't talk. Rudolph Steiner School, where we live. And I just love the philosophy that they teach at that school. it's actually quite different to mainstream school because my two older daughters started off at mainstream and they spent their whole primary years at mainstream, and then we transferred them over at high school. And then my youngest one has been able to go through from kindy. And it's just so beautiful to see how they incorporate the rhythms and nature. And it's also fascinating that they'll only allow certain lessons and certain subjects to be covered when the child is actually ready to receive that information. Whereas in mainstream school, you're just crammed with all this information. Whereas at the Rudolf Steiner School, or also known as a Waldorf School, they really have everything laid out so that children are not learning it until they're not just, it's like when they're physically, emotionally, and mentally ready to receive that information. They have the most beautiful classrooms. They're like blackboards. There's no smart screens, there's no PowerPoint presentations, it's so beautiful. And I guess I'm really, really hoping to bring more awareness of things like, because the mystery school teachings, I think, are so grounded in nature, at least the positive ones anyway. um, it's so grounded in nature and rhythms and working with nature, basically, like the school is. And I'm just hoping that, we can bring more awareness to people to start living life like this, because I feel like we have been very distracted and caught up with ideas of disassociating, like you were saying before. People are really looking for ways to escape the pain that they're in and get distracted and not actually doing the work. But we need to remember that we need to be present and be here, because on a soul level, we signed up to be here. And, if we don't do the work now, we'll just have to come back and do it all over again. So, yeah, so I really love that. I love that there's so much in that really relates. So if people are interested in wanting to get started, is there anything in particular, like, because I know there's so much different parts to it. There's the kind of healing work like the Reiki and things like that. And then there's shamanism, because I've done a little bit of study of shamanism with Alberto Villoldo. How to say his Vidello? How do you say his name? Yeah.
Violdo, yeah, the Munay key rites that we
Yes.
pass as part of it is came from Alberto Violdo working with the indigenous cultures
Yes.
uh,
Yes.
over there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, I'm very familiar with the Four Winds Society and all that and the work that he's done. I have a few of his books too, but yeah,
Same.
the Munay key rites that we pass comes from
From yeah.
there.
Would you
Yeah.
like to explain a little bit more about the Munay key rites for people?
Yes, I love the Munay key rites. There's 9 rites total,
Mhm.
and there's like the foundational rites, which are like 4 rites. And what they start to do is they basically begin to clear the sludge of your body, and then they also offer protection, and they also awaken your healing. It's like the first rite, for instance, is the healer's rite, which awakens your potential for healing. There's another rite that's called the seer's rite, which awakens your perception and your capacity and your ability to see more clearly. Then the bands of protection, or the bands of power that get incorporated. That's another one of the rites, and that it's exactly what that is. There are bands of protection and bands of power that you can pop out, like contract in or pop out however you need to, so that you have an extra layer around you to help bounce off anything that you don't want coming to you. And then the harmony rites is the ones where you actually install the archetypes within your energy systems, like you install serpent and jaguar and the hummingbird and the condor and wascad and the Quetzalcoatl and Pachacuti. So they get in your energy, and they start to clear the sludge, and they each have their own piece, like jaguar, for instance, is another protector that once it's
Oh,
with you, like for instance, if you get in accidents and such, it will take the hit first. So you're it just adds these extra layers of connection. And those are just the foundational rites. And then there's the five shamanic rites,
yes.
which is when you begin to connect with like all the day keepers of the world. And the day keepers that's the feminine, more of the feminine principle. And you connect with, the doulas, the death doulas and the birth doulas. And you connect with the guardians of all the different sacred sites around, like Stonehenge and Machu Picchu. And the day keepers, they also greet the sun, and then usher it away, the sunset. So these are the day keepers. And then the wisdom keepers is another rite, and it's the one that it's more of the male principle, so it helps to balance out more of the masculine. And the wisdom keepers, they are the protectors of the mysteries, and they come up and they show up in your life. Like for instance, if you're having a conversation, and maybe someone is interested in the things that you do, but then you feel like this thing's like, I don't know if we should be having this conversation. Like something is saying, oh, don't have the conversation with that person yet. So they're like the actual protector of the mysteries, or the wisdom keepers. And the wisdom keepers, like they're part of the mountains, and how, a lot of the monks and priests and stuff, they come down from the mountains. And like if you ever notice too, that a lot of sacred sites are always built up high on the mountains.
Yes.
In other words, that's a pilgrimage. You have to climb up a mountain to get
Um,
this information, almost as a way of protecting the mysteries. You know what I mean?
yeah.
You have to take the pilgrimage. So that's kind of the idea behind the wisdom keepers. And then you got, the star keepers and the earth keepers and the creator rights, and they all have their own piece that you begin to connect with. This again, just more of that connection with around you, and with all your spiritual allies, and it
Mhm.
awakens all that within you as well. So you become part of the daykeeper lineage. You become a part of the wisdom keeper lineage. You become a part of the star keeper lineage, and so on.
Mhm.
And so that's how the Munay key rights work. And they do have to be passed down from, someone who's received the rights and have learned how to pass the rights. So they're passed down um, through, through the line.
Mhm.
But I love the Munay key rights.
Yeah, it
They're
sounds
great.
incredible. I mean, I know that his partner or wife that he works with, I know that she's written a book about it, and it's on my list of books to read. But yeah, it sounds absolutely beautiful. But that's something that you were saying is best to be passed on in person, isn't it?
I think so. I mean, you're going to get different opinions.
Of
I'm,
course,
I'm
of
sure there'll be
course.
some people that you talk to. It's the same way. Like, there
But like
you'll get
even with
different
like
opinions
Reiki.
about, like Reiki, like about people and that's just different opinions. But for me, I always prefer, and maybe that's just me old school and having gone through the
Mm,
process in person myself. And then I
mm.
am more of
Kinesthetic.
I am a tactile person,
Yeah,
and I receive stuff like that better when we are in person.
of course.
And again, I just think
Well,
there's something to that.
yeah, I mean, look, I love technology, don't get me wrong. I use it all day, every
Mhm.
day. But I think there is this magic in physical things. Like even if I'm journaling, I do it with a pen and paper because I feel like that's so much more powerful. I think if you're writing down your goals and dreams, it's pen and paper, not just typing it onto your phone or the computer. And I also believe, like, I mean, when I got my Reiki, it was also in person. So I just agree that I feel like there is just a bit more power and potency there when you're doing it physically with somebody. Yeah. Jennifer, do you have any questions that you want to ask? Because I feel like I'm been chatting a lot, and I just want to make sure that if you have anything you want to ask, you can ask.
I do have a question that kind of relates, it's kind of a personal question, so you don't have to answer it, but I'm curious what your experience was when you traveled to Peru for the first time. Like, did you set foot on some of those sacred areas and just kind of be like full circle? Like, I'm so curious what your emotion was because to me, that would be such an emotional and what an experience to take in. And I'm just curious if you don't mind answering, what your
No.
experience was with that. Because that's my question.
Well, these places like this, they will always meet you. I feel anyways, they'll meet you with where you are and with what you're ready to receive. And and who knows? I mean, part of that is, will be determined by your where you are in your psychology, and then and if you're supposed to get like on a soul level, some kind of grand awakening there. I mean, the first time I went, I was probably a little bit younger, and I went with my mom, and I thought it was beautiful. And was the funny thing is, and it was beautiful, is I did get like a few hits of understanding probably that first time of, oh, the people, they built the sacred sites here because Machu Picchu was where they because of the rocks and everything that they use, it's known to be more of a sacred site. And in other words, it's not just like where people would go for everyday living. It was a place that people would go to do like certain rituals and worship and all that. That there's something special about the location.
Mm.
Like, when you step in, there is something about the location itself that these people felt we need to build upon this because we need to harness this energy that's here within these particular mountain range. You know what I mean? So that was like the first understanding that I got. But it wasn't probably until I went later, because I've been there a few times, probably 4 or 5 times. I don't know because I've done different retreats there. And there was one time that I went, and this was still when you were able to actually walk on the sun. There's a sundial there, the sundial, and there's a platform that the sundial is on, and now it's roped off. But you used to be able to get on that platform of the sundial. And I remember walking on that, and I felt like I got struck by lightning. I mean, something just like buzzed me,
Wow.
and it set something off that lasted for weeks, at least 2, 3, 4 weeks. And it had me in this, it was almost distracting to the point. I'm glad it actually wore off because it keeps you in that altered state, and it makes it more difficult to get connected with your everyday. But it definitely
It was
like
like an
did something. It was
activation
a
or
hit. It was
something.
an energetic hit that I got.
Wow.
And it made one of the things it made me really fascinated with I've always been fascinated, interested in like crystals and stuff like that, but overly fascinated. I like became obsessed with all the different stones and crystals and stuff like that during that time. And I don't know why it had that particular impact, but it did. So then that happened at the Machu Picchu. That was probably the most powerful, where you actually felt like I got struck by lightning almost when I stood in the sundial. Because it's funny, because then I went another time after that, and I stood on the sundial, and absolutely nothing happened. You
Wow.
know what I
I,
mean? So it was like
yeah, I
whatever
wonder
it was, I was just primed
if it was,
for receiving it
yes.
at that one moment, and that was it. And you weren't going to get it again.
I wonder if it was like and I don't know, but I like talking about this stuff, but if I wonder if it was like an activation from past life knowledge, especially about crystals, because if that was something that was starting to kind of swirl in your head with the properties of them, that would make a lot of sense to me that there was an activation there and you were supposed to be there right there at that point in time and you
Hmm.
were. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah, yeah,
nice.
yeah. So that, and then there was the last time I went on a retreat there, we went up to Lake Titicaca, which is like the highest lake in it's shared between Peru and Bolivia. It's funny because it's a joke that they always say. They say, uh Titi for Peru and Caca for for Bolivia.
That's funny.
I know that's just like a little joke in there, but and the guy that usually leads the retreats, he's also very knowledgeable. I'm friends with him, knowledgeable about all the sacredness of all the places that we went to, and that's known to be like this the second energy center of the world. So lots of that watery, it's a very watery type energy, and I remember going on there and just feeling this major emotional release just and it just came out of nowhere. We were taking the boat to where we were going to be staying on the island on the lake. I just remember crossing the island, just this big emotional feeling came over me, like grief, but it was like a necessary grief of letting go of just certain aspects, like letting go of things like your youth and you're I'm never going to be 30 years old anymore. Like that kind of, I don't know if y'all have ever experienced that, just that moment of realization that your past is your past and you're never going to be that young again and all that. But this big,
And
like emotional wave of letting go came through when I was, on the lake. So I feel like that was also the medicine, like, big medicine that came from that part.
and it's so interesting to me they call these sacred sites, but yeah, it was like like an energetic flush of your system to awaken to bring in a new evolved Cindy.
Mm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not familiar with Lake Titicaca, but I'm going to look that up. I am now curious how high this up is in the mountains, and are there waterfalls around there? I have no idea visually
I
what
think
this
it's
is.
I think it's the highest lake, or at least it was, or at least one of the highest or the highest elevate lake in elevation wise. It's like at 12 or 13,000, maybe 12,000 or something like that. So it's a very dry feeling, but you're on the lake, but it has a different feeling of other lakes that are more on sea level for sure. I mean, it definitely has that sense. Like there's not a whole lot of insects.
Can you guys
Oh,
see?
okay. There. Oh, you're
Yep.
pulling it up. Yeah.
Oh,
Like for
look at
instance, I
that.
noticed
That's
that there's
beautiful.
not like a whole lot of insects. There's no mosquitoes or anything nearby, and I don't know if that has to do
Really?
with the elevation.
Wow.
But
Does it have
but
arches?
yeah,
Is that an arch I see? Like,
Where
It
if you
whereabouts?
can you
might. I mean, we only spent a couple of days there, and there's some people like in some of those pictures, you see the little huts. They
if you
live
go
on
up,
these. They live
Oh
on
my
these
gosh.
yeah, yeah. They live on those
Wow.
little island things that they build themselves. And we visited
Incredible.
one of those. We visited one of those too.
Wow. They're like little
Yeah. So,
houseboats.
that's
hmm
incredible.
It looks
You
so
see,
stunning.
wow.
it is stunning. Lake Titicaca is quite beautiful. And yeah, and that's what the shaman there said anyways, and or the guy who was leading the retreat, that it represents the second chakra, Lake Titicaca does specifically. So if you spend time there, that might be where it starts to hit.
How
Yeah.
fascinating. Oh, I love learning about stuff like that. It's just
Yeah,
so,
because
Hmm.
there's so many heavens on our planet. We
yes.
think about our wild times we're in, but then you talk of places like that, and that's
Yeah.
why they're considered sacred because they are
Magic.
beautiful, energetically powered spots that it's really
Hmm.
hard for us to comprehend that, I think. I know I have a hard time comprehending it, but you just know it's special.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
yeah,
How amazing. And
that's
so
awesome.
with your mystery school training that you do at Sacred Garden Yoga, so what kind of topics do you cover in your courses?
Well, the first part, it's like divided up into three different sections.
Yeah.
The first one we call it the shaman because that is where I pass on. I always think of just like passing on the information
Uh-huh.
about the Andean tradition. That's why we call it the shaman. So
Yeah.
I teach you what I've learned about the different like working with the elements through the Andean lineage and initiating yourself through the elements and then going through all sorts of like the different processes again the ones that I was taught and then you become a mesa holder, which if you look up mesa, MESA, they're like medicine bundles that's very specific to that region.
Right.
And because that's what I became a mesa holder when I worked with the shaman. And so just passing on that lineage of becoming a mesa holder and then passing the Munay key rites.
Mhm.
So a lot of the Andean tradition is passed through with that first part, the shaman.
Mhm.
And then and that's pretty much just you connecting with earth.
Yeah, I
Okay, so
love
that's
that.
like earth connection. And then for the second part, when we work with the alchemists, and this when we connect with planets. So,
Ah,
but the planets, they're still real. You can still see them. So they're still like a very real part of our cosmology and all that. And so then we touch briefly upon the astrology and your chart, but then also planetary magic. We actually learn planetary magic. In other words, how to actually summon what, because each planet is an archetype within itself.
yeah.
And depending on what it is that you're working on, for instance, like Venus and Aphrodite is the Greek interpretation of Venus.
Hmm.
And Venus, the planet, Aphrodite, the goddess of pleasure and all that is beautiful in the material world. And if you're needing some Venus energy, then through planetary magic, how to create the altar and all that and everything to summon them. So you learn how we teach you how to summon the actual planets down
Hmm.
according to the times of the day, because there's a specific day and specific time of the day, and the Orphic hymns that you can use to summon them and all this stuff. So,
Right.
anyways, we go through understanding that, then the rhythms of the planet and in that too, also connecting because then we work with the specific tarot deck because the planets are in there as well, and
Lovely.
so are the not just the planets but also the elements are built into the tarot deck, as well as the Kabbalah is built into the
Yep.
tarot deck, all layered in. And then we also learn about, other more like occulty type things like the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram. And we start to get into like more into the realm of the occult and the archangels and how
Wow.
the archangels layer in with with all that as well. So it's a lot. The second one's actually a lot and it's quite heady and it requires a more study for sure.
Okay.
And that's the alchemist, and we learn about like we start to delve into like Carl Jung and his different stages of alchemy and all that stuff. So yeah, so planetary magic is the
Wow. I
alchemist.
didn't realize planetary magic was a thing. That you
Yes,
could tap
planetary magic. It's one of my
into.
favorite things. Yeah, I love
Wow.
planetary. Love
Wow.
the actual summoning and the planetary magic and actually, learning how to pull it down.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah, and just more spiritual, working with the spiritual allies and stuff. And yeah, and then when we work through the priestess, which is the third part, and the priestess comes in two parts,
Uh-huh.
then we start to connect even more. We get with like we connect more with the lineages of like Mary Magdalene and all of them. Like we connect with the deities on the lighter side on the first part, and then on the second part of the priestess, more of the dark mothers
Uh-huh.
and start to get more into like like Persephone would be
Yes.
considered one of the dark ones, and Hecate and Baba Yaga and all these, and through that, very much so, a lot of the priestess and a lot of everything, actually, it starts from the beginning, is starting to connect with that darker side of you,
Yes.
but not as a way to like make you dark, but as a way of making you whole. So
Yes,
there's a big
exactly.
emphasis
The shadow
on
work.
connecting and uh, with all that. So yeah, it's just like continued studies of working with sigils, is another thing we work with. We actually do that in the shaman, how to create sigils. And
Yeah.
so a lot of like magical type work we actually do, using all the candles and the sigils and the anointing oils and all the fun things. And
Oh, how
yeah.
amazing. I'm so jealous. One day I'm going to come over and I'll just have
I
to
know.
live
I
in
was thinking.
America for like a year and work through all of the courses.
I know. I was thinking. I wish I was closer to. I'm in Michigan, but I'd love to if I was closer to Atlanta because that's something I feel that in person is
Yeah.
really important.
Yeah, I love
And that
that.
may be our
Yeah.
generation, because we were before the internet and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. So can you,
Yeah. And so the whole mystery school, I should say, the whole thing probably takes about 2.5 years to go through,
yeah, yeah,
like from the shaman to, so you actually have this time to integrate it. It's not,
of
like a
course.
weekend course and you become a priestess or whatever. It's like a
No.
Yeah.
whole 2.5 year
And that's
process
important
to
as well.
give time to
I
integrate. And
Yes.
then
yeah.
you're still working on it no matter what. I mean, 2.5 years also, that's nothing.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, that's just like the beginning.
Yeah. Well, like
And then you're
Anna
still
lived for over 600 years apparently, so it took her a long
right.
time to go through all of her different
Yeah, I mean,
initiations
that's just
and
like the beginning to,
yeah.
to get you kind of started with some of the information and give you direction on where to go. But then
Mhm.
it's always continuous after that.
It's
Yeah, because I
amazing.
think back in the day they lived in those temples and that was their life was the mystery school
Yeah.
back in the
Right.
day.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's like a
Yeah,
lifelong.
exactly.
And that's the same with like medicine men and medicine women and shamans. Like often the people that become them will live with the shaman or the medicine man or woman and be studying for years and years and years. It's not something that just it's not a weekend course, that's for sure. But I would love for you to talk a little bit more about the dark goddesses because we're kind of programmed to just think that, oh no, that's evil, that's bad, get away. But yeah, I've just kind of been opening up to that and been learning a bit more about them and how they can help empower you and help give you strength and courage and help face those parts of yourself that you're disowning. So yeah, I'd love for you to talk on that a little bit if you can.
Yeah, the dark goddesses and the shadow work and all that has, I remember there it was a few years back. I was, and this was before the term shadow work or anything was a thing. I mean, it
Yeah.
existed. I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
existed for a while
But
because
it
Carl
wasn't really
Jung,
known. Yeah.
he's no, but it wasn't, it wasn't like talked about
Yeah.
yet or anything. And I was writing in my journal about something, and it said something about, being a shadow worker and a shadow priestess. And I'm like, I don't even know what that means. What does shadow worker even mean? But then you come to find out the importance of what that truly does mean. And now I think everyone's who is pretty familiar with the work of, it's just making the subconscious conscious and all that.
Yeah.
And so what the dark goddesses do is they help you with that. They will help you meet the darker parts of you. And there's the planetary deities that will do that too, like Mars and Saturn. So it's also built into astrology because Mars and Saturn, they're also considered like the malefics. And when people hear a word like malefic, they think, oh, it's all bad.
Mm.
But something has got to contain this dark energy,
Yeah.
and if we just try to push it and hide it away, we see what happens when that we don't integrate well. I mean, part of becoming more like self or cultivating self mastery is integrating that darker
All of
side
it.
of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole, to be the full spectrum. So even in the planets, it's built in through the great malefics of Mars and Saturn to
Hmm.
start to awaken you to the fact that pain exists, death exists, um, you know, uh, when we cause pain to other people. So it's not just when you're victimized, but when you're the perpetrator,
Yeah.
acknowledging that. Like you need to own that. You need to
Yeah.
own when you become the one that's perpetrating and causing harm to other people. It's the stuff that we don't like to look at,
Yeah.
but that is what in the end it is. Yeah, you don't just look at these, these it's easier, I think, to look at when you've been victimized versus when you've
Definitely.
actually perpetrated and caused harm to someone else. But
Hmm.
that's a necessary part of the path, is you have to be willing to look at that.
Hmm.
And that's what these darker goddesses, they do. They don't just pull up where you're the victim. They also pulls up, where you've been the perpetrator, and where you've caused harm, and how can you make peace with that within yourself. And it's a really important part of the practice, and facing yourself and becoming whole. And so the darker deities, from the planets to Babylon. I love Babylon is one of my favorite, and I mean, she's the whore in the Bible, the whore of
Yeah.
Babylon. And but she is the I love Babylon. She's one of my favorites. The everything about her is absolutely fascinating. But some people would consider her very evil. But she's a mother. She's the great mother. And honestly, like Babylon and Mother Mary are not that different. They're very much the
Wow.
same. And the reason she's the whore is because there's nobody that she rejects. Like she loves and she takes in everybody into her cup. You know what I mean? It's like she
Wow.
receives, she makes love, I guess you'd say, with everybody, even the darkest people. So this is why she's the whore, because she accepts everyone unconditionally. So it's just
That
like,
is,
like these misunderstandings of
Yes.
but you go into the realm of Babylon. I love it. You see me, I get all lit up talking about Babylon. There's Babylon, there's Kali. Kali was probably one of the first ones for a while. I mean, everything. Kali was like the gateway goddess for me to the darker goddesses. So first came working with Kali.
Hmm.
Yeah, y'all have heard of
Yeah.
Kali, yeah, the mother of destruction and all this stuff. But she's also like the one of the great mothers. So she was like the gateway goddess that opened up to then the ones like Babylon and Lilith. Lilith is she's a demon.
Hmm.
And she gets upset if you don't, like, if you want to know Lilith, you have to accept that she is also a demon.
I
Right.
was just
And
going to say,
but
I don't,
but then we have a
yeah.
hard time accepting that, right? Like we say, oh, she's a demon. I'm like, God, like, but that's where we have to work on facing like that, where we've
Oh my
been the
God.
perpetrator and things like
Sorry
that.
to
You see?
interrupt just for a second, but I don't know if, I mean, I've got kids, so I don't know if either of you heard of the K-pop Demon Hunters movie that's come out on Netflix.
Yes.
Oh my God, I am in love with this movie. At first, I was like, I wasn't really interested. And then my daughter was like, I want to watch it. I want to watch it. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to sit down and watch it with her and make sure it's not inappropriate and I'll turn it off if it is. I ended up falling in love with it. And when you were saying that just now, it just made me think of the main character. I forget what her name is, but she is part demon, part human.
Exactly.
And
Yeah, exactly.
she has to learn throughout this movie, like throughout the story, she has to learn to love all of herself because she's been hiding
Hmm.
that demon part of her the whole time. And then in the end she starts to lose her voice and it's all going wrong for her until she starts to embrace the demon part of her. And it is just so beautiful. It actually makes me cry. It's like a cartoon movie. It's Korean anime. But oh my God, and the songs are just amazing. I love the songs. The
Yes.
the the three girls, the Korean girl, oh my God, they are amazing and they have the most beautiful voices. But sorry to interrupt, but I just had to share that because that's what it makes me think of. And I think this is so
Hmm.
important. We do have to accept that there is good and bad in all of us. We're not just walking around being this perfect person that we think we are. There is all of it in us, and embracing that. But yeah, sorry, keep going, Cindy.
No, yeah, no, that's perfect. And I love how some of these concepts are now starting to show up in, pop culture, especially with like the more recent Star Wars movies, whether they're good or not. But it's the same thing. They do
Yeah.
that. It's the same
Sharing.
concept of oh, my grandfather was the evilest man alive, and so I have this. That was the girl, right? She
Yeah,
was like
yeah.
having to
Accept
accept
that.
that there's that she had a very dark side to her, and so it's definitely being much more part of culture now, of
Mhm.
of accepting this dark side of you. And so Lilith is it's part of that. She was one of the first darker ones that came in through Kali. Kali is the gateway, and then
Ah,
Lilith came in. And when Lilith came in, it was one of those like Machu Picchu moments where she came in and she was with me for like a few weeks, hardcore. And
ah,
anyways, it was really interesting to like be in that space of Lilith for a while. And it gets very strange. And I think this is why having so like someone to help guide you, because when that part of you starts to come up, it can be frightening. It can actually be quite scary. And
yeah.
you're wondering, oh my God, am I, because you start questioning yourself, am I going to turn into this evil, bad person? Am I
Yeah.
going to start sacrificing chickens or something? I'm like, okay, I need to surrender to this. And turns out you don't end up sacrificing any animals or anything, but it's weird to like for this to come up. And we're so afraid of the darkness.
Yes.
And so when it comes up, it's helpful to have someone to kind of help navigate you,
Mm-hmm.
because in the end it's not about making you evil and dark and like Darth Vader or Voldemort or anything like that, because for a minute you think you're going to turn. I was like, oh my God, am I just gonna, it has a weird effect on your psyche.
Uh-huh.
And this is why I think mystery schools are important, to because your psyche will start to get messed with,
Uh-huh.
and you need to have a proper container to
Yeah.
hold of that for you when it's like these wacky things start to happen, which is yeah, like I said, the supreme importance of having a space that can hold that for you when you're going through those moments, and realizing that you're not going crazy. And in the end, you actually feel better. You feel you feel lighter. You don't feel darker. I
Yeah.
mean, you feel darker for a minute, but then
Mhm.
in the end you feel lighter,
Yeah. Yeah.
because you went through it. And so this is how the dark goddesses work. But there needs to, and it's the last part of the mystery school, because there needs to be a certain foundation to be
Of
had already in the
course.
light. Like you really need to be anchored in doing some the light work before going to that darker
More
part, because
advanced part.
those goddesses can be quite powerful. And if you're
Yes.
serious about doing the work, it'll start to, like I said, it'll mess with you a little bit, and you need to have just yeah, to be ready for it. Like your body
100%.
needs to be ready for it. So that's kind of like what the dark goddesses do. And yeah, Persephone is one of yeah, but like really understanding, the story of Persephone. And I love that you're connected with Persephone. She's a good one.
Yeah.
And Hecate,
Yep.
and then the crones, especially when you start to get older, connecting with the crones and the old hags like Baba Yaga and
Uh-huh.
Kaliach and all these. They help you to integrate things like, and this is also very Saturn, it helps you to integrate things like death and dying
Right. Yes. And that's important too. We have to
and
face that.
becoming older, just like going through that process of going through time, and
Mhm.
and death happens and dying happens. And that's another thing that we get very fearful of too, and actually the was it Lucini the Eleusinian mysteries of Demeter and Persephone, that was the end result, was that they came out of that with no fear of death.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it makes you wonder what they were doing in those caves,
Yeah.
but that was like the end result. It was that they no longer feared death.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's so amazing. Wow. Do you have any other questions, Jennifer?
I don't. This has been such a great conversation. I have learned so much, and this has been great.
I know this is just so
I have to say.
fascinating. I love that so much. And yeah, for anybody that's interested in working with Cindy, if you're near, it's near, not far from Atlanta, it's Marietta, is that right? Yeah, so anybody
Hmm.
that's near there or wants to practice yoga with Cindy, and also Bryce teaches there a couple of days a week, doesn't she? Yeah, so
Hmm.
yeah, absolutely. But
Yeah.
I will put all of your contact information in the description box below, because I know that you're in Instagram and you've got your website and all of that for anybody that's interested.
I do work with some people like one-on-one online,
Okay.
like just like kind of one-on-one work,
Oh,
you know,
amazing.
in different, types of programs, depending on, what someone is interested in. And yeah, I mean, as far as the online, and like I said, I did to do the online shaman.
Yep.
I tried that out for the first time. I don't know about um I have to kind of test out the alchemists. We know this is where we work with planetary magic and all that.
Yep.
Not quite to the point yet. I don't think of
Yeah,
offering those online. It's
yeah,
just a
because
lot of
you really,
information.
Yeah.
yeah, and you have, I was just going to say, you have so much to offer with that, Cindy. So I don't even know how you would, that'd be a lot to wrangle in your head to get prepared to try to do something like that online.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, it's a lot to prepare for anyways, especially
Yeah.
with the planets. What you realize with the planets is their energy is huge. It's very huge. And I have to actually prepare myself for that course. Like I have to be, okay, we're doing this. We're
Yeah.
gonna go through, because you go through it too, whenever
Yes.
you're facilitating anything, you're going through it too. And I have to like totally physically, mentally prepare for those big, huge energies to begin to come through. So yeah.
Mhm. But I can imagine it's so rewarding.
Yeah, it is. And you learn something new each time you go
Mhm.
through it too.
Wow.
It's again, it's like lifelong,
Yeah.
like learning and connecting with the planetary stuff. It's many, many years in it doesn't end
Mhm.
basically. But that's the
Yeah.
sweet part of it.
Yeah, I love that. There's no time to be
Hmm.
bored. I'm never bored.
No. Exactly.
Yeah, there's always something to learn, and that's so amazing. Oh, thank you so much for spending time with us today, Cindy, and sharing your incredible knowledge with us. And I'm sure that we'll love to get you on again and talk even more about more things as we kind of get further in the series and come up, yeah, learn more and share more with everybody. But yeah, I'm so grateful that you joined us, Cindy, and gave us your time, and you as well, Jennifer. I really appreciate that.
Thank you for having me. This was a great conversation.
Oh, amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for thinking of me.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
appreciate you
Yeah, you're a
so
powerhouse,
much.
Cindy. You're
Yeah,
a
yeah.
powerhouse.
We are very much in awe of
Oh,
you.
Yeah.
oh, thank you. Thank you, as you as well. So we're all just kind of mirrors of each other, reflecting each other.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Awesome.
Three
Well,
powerful
thank
bitches
you.
right here.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Exactly, right?
100%. We're all goddesses.
That's
Oh.
right.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you, everybody, for watching. And we'll see you next time. Bye.